Today, we're going to be building a printable sales lead call list in Power BI. Now, why might you want to do this? Well, frankly, there's a lot of applications where actually having a printed list makes a lot of sense. So let's just say you're a charity and you're essentially printing out a list of your biggest donors to call and ask for charitable contributions. Maybe you're a car dealership and you have some salesmen that are great, but they're not the best with technology. And so you need to print out a list of leads for them to go and call through. That is where having a printable Power BI report is great. So, for the purposes of this video, we're going to pretend that we're working for a car dealership. Let's just say it sells Ferraris. Okay. And we're going to need to do a couple of things. First, we're going to need to collect our data. Then, we're going to need to build a Power BI semantic model. Then, we're going to need to build the actual printable report itself. So, let's get started. Now, since I don't have a real Ferrari dealership's data to work with, we're going to have to generate some fake data. And I'm going to generate that fake data using a Python package called Faker. I quickly asked ChatGPT to write me a quick Python script using Faker that has a salesperson along with some customer information that a car dealership might want. And I asked it to generate 10,000 rows of data. So when I go ahead and I run this, what you'll see, give it a second, is boom, it just generated a file with 10,000 rows. So here we are in the file. And as you can see, if we scroll all the way down, right, we have 10,000 rows of data. Now we got to take all of this data and we got to get it into a Power BI semantic model. This data is currently in a CSV. But if you work at a real company or for a real nonprofit, you probably will have a CRM tool. You can go ahead and connect Power BI to that CRM tool as well. But for now, we just have our CSV. So I'm going to take that data, I'm going to put it into Power Query, and I'm going to load it into a Power BI semantic model. So here we are in our blank report. And as you can see, it's just an empty Power BI file. First, I'm going to go get our data. So I'm going to go into data and I'm going to click get data over here. Since our data is in a CSV, I just need to click text in CSV and then select the file. But as you can see, there's all these other services. So you can go ahead and you could connect to those other services. But I'm clicking text and CSV because that's the format that our data's in. So I'm going to click this and then click connect. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select my file. So in this case, the file should have just saved on my C drive. So I'm going to go in here and here it is, car dealership clients. Now in the pop-up, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click transform data. Then in Power Query, I'm going to go down here and I am going to go first row contains headers, which is right here. And just like that, I now have our data. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit close and apply. And we now should have a semantic model with our car dealership data. Now we need to get this Power BI dataset up into the service so we can connect to it with Power BI Report Builder, which is what we're going to be using to build our printable report. So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to hit this publish button, and then I'm going to hit save. I'm going to give it a fun and creative title when it pops up, which my computer is probably being a little slow right now. So I'll save it as car dealer or customer. What about customer car dealer? Misspelled dealer. Ship clients. Okay. And I'll just for now just publish this into this developer workspace. And I'll go ahead and hit select and I will let it publish. Now, Power BI Report Builder can get data out of a Power BI data set or semantic model two different ways. The first is it has a built-in query builder. Frankly, I find that a little difficult to use. So what I tend to do is write custom DAX functions. So let's go ahead and let's write, or custom DAX queries, I should say. So let's go ahead and let's write those custom DAX queries in our same Power BI desktop file. So to do that, I'll go into DAX query view and I've already got my queries written for me. JK, this is just the power of movie editing. But what I've done is I've written two queries. So the first query is essentially pulling out the columns that I want out of the table that we built, which is car dealership clients. I also in here have a filter. And this filter in our report is going to eventually be automatically populated in the printable report. So before you print it, you'll be able to say, hey, I'm salesperson Ethan, right? Or hey, I'm salesperson Charlie. So in this case, I was just testing it with Charlie. So if I go ahead and I run this, right, it runs, or testing with Ethan. And then if I go ahead and I run this with Charlie Davis, right, you'll go see ahead and see that it returns a different list of clients. Simultaneously, we will also need a query to get all of our salespeople out. So that's where this second query is. So this query is essentially just returning the values of salesperson. So that way we can use that to populate our dropdown. I am by no means a DAX expert. In fact, I actually consider myself a little bit of a DAX beginner. So when you go to write these queries, I'm going to be honest, ChatGPT and Copilot are your friend. They can go ahead and they can fix a lot of mistakes and make this part that I just showed you a lot easier. Okay, so now we're ready to fire up Power BI Report Builder and start building out our printed report, or as it's also called, a paginated report. So let's go ahead and let's fire up Power BI Report Builder and start building. So here we are in Power BI Report Builder. It's a separate application from Power BI, and it's essentially just rebranded SSRS reports, or I think maybe it was Crystal Report Viewer, which is where these were built. But what it does allow you to do is build really nice printable reports. So the first step that we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to add a data source. So I'm going to right click this and I'm going to click add Power BI semantic model connection. It is going to ask you to sign in. So you're going to have to sign in. In this case, let me quickly sign in. Then once you're signed in, you got to go ahead and we got to go pick out our semantic model. In this case, I believe we called it customer car dealership clients. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select that. And just like that, we now have our data source. The next thing we need to do is we need to create two separate data sets. The first data set is going to be our list of salespeople that we'll use to populate the dropdown to filter our customers to a specific salesperson's customers. The other dropdown is just going to be our list of customers for the dealership. So let's go ahead, let's right click here, and then we're going to click add data set. We're going to title this one customers. Okay. And then our data source is going to be our Power BI data set. Then we're going to go back to this query that we just had. We're going to copy this and we're going to paste it in here. We're then going to click validate query, which is then going to run the DAX query up against the Power BI semantic model. And then we're going to go down into our fields. And as you can see right here, it came up with some kind of wonky names. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to switch this out to name. Car interested in, and you can't have any spaces in this, just an FYI. But I'm just getting rid of the table name here. So we'll go name. We'll rename this to preferred contact method. We'll rename this one to email. We'll rename this one to phone. And then we'll rename this one to address. Okay. We'll go ahead and we'll click OK. And just like that, we now have our customers. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to right click again and we're going to click add data. And we're going to name this one salespeople. And then on our data source right here, we're going to again and select our Power BI semantic model. We're going to go back to that query we just had written right here. So we're going to copy that out. We're going to paste this in and we're going to hit validate query. Once this is finished loading, we're once again going to do the exact same thing where we're now going to go into fields and we're going to rename this one to salesperson. We're going to go ahead and we're going to hit OK. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to pass a parameter into our Power BI query for our clients. And that parameter is going to be the salesperson's name. So let's go ahead and let's create that parameter in Power BI Report Builder. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go over to parameters. We're going to right click it and then click add parameter. We're going to name this parameter salesperson name, and the prompt is going to be salesperson. And we'll capitalize it because this is the one they'll see on the report. So salesperson. The data type is going to be text, right? We are not going to allow multiple values. We're not going to allow null values, and we will not allow blank values. For our available values, we're going to go over here and we're going to click get values from query, and we're going to go salespeople, salesperson, and our label field here is going to be salesperson. We're not going to set we will set a default value. So we will go sales values here, and we will add a default value of just nothing. Then let's go into advanced, and we will essentially say always refresh, just so we're always getting our new salespeople if a new one is added into our data set. I'm then going to go ahead and click OK. So we now have a parameter called salesperson's name. I'm then going to go back into customers, right click it, go into dataset properties. Once we are in dataset properties, we now need to add our new parameter. So we're going to go right here and we're going to hit add, and our parameter name is going to be salesperson, and our parameter value is going to be salesperson's name. Now we're going to copy this text right here. We're going to go back into query and see right here where we had this essentially this Charlie Davis. We're going to replace this right here with at and then our variable name. So that parameter is going to be injected in. So we'll then go ahead and we'll now click validate query. And I suspect we will get a warning message here. Oh, I guess it was successfully. So it said data fields are updated. So let's go back in to our fields, right? So we don't have any new fields. So we're good there. Let's go ahead and let's click OK. All right, so at this point, we now have our parameter configured. Let's go ahead and let's run this report and let's see if we get any errors. So here we are. We ran it. We have salesperson select a value. Here are all of our salespeople populating in. But right now, we don't have a table. So let's go ahead and let's start out building out the actual report part. Now, I am not going to lie to you. Building out an actual report in Power BI Report Builder is very difficult compared to Power BI. It's from almost a different era. In fact, I made a video called Power BI Report Builder is terrible. So you are probably not going to enjoy this experience. But let's go ahead and let's get started designing. The first important thing that you're going to need to do is going to need to go over here to this view section and enable properties. Once you have properties enabled, you can now essentially see your core settings. We're going to go ahead, and because this is a printable page, we're going to set the interactive size to 8.5 by 11. We're going to go ahead and we're going to decrease our margins, right? Because why do we need an inch margin? We don't. So we're going to decrease our margins to 1/2 inch here. And we're going to paste this in, right? And then we are going to go, I believe, into print setup, which I think we can get to here by right clicking and then going into report properties. Now, once we're in report properties right here, here we are, we have an orientation property. And this orientation property can be super useful. So if you want a really long list, you can either set it to portrait or you can set it to landscape. In this case, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it in a portrait setting, but there's might be some scenarios where you might want it in a landscape setting. So that is how you can do that. Okay, now to build the body of the report. First, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete out this title, and then I'm going to go over here to insert, and I am going to insert in a table. So I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to go insert table, and my table is going to be about as wide as the report. So here we are, we have our headers and our data. And I'm going to just start dragging over in here, right, our various fields. So preferred contact method, email, phone, and address. Now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to run this report just to see how it looks. Now, once this report has run, I'm then going to go into uh, print layout right here. And it's going to say, oops, one or more of the parameters required to run the report have not been specified. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Then I'm going to go and select a parameter. So in this case, I'm going to select Bob Smith. I'm going to click View Report, and we're going to let it load. And as you can see, this is not very pretty, but what we did do is we did load 36 pages of Bob's clients. As you can see right here, we're already having some kind of weird stuff go on here with our address field. So let's go ahead and let's fix that. But first, let's just confirm that our DAX query is running, by running a different user. And yep, it looks like it is running. So we got a different list of clients there. Let's run it for Diana. Right, Diana got a different list of clients. So let's go back into the design and let's start to fix this. So first of all, we don't need our name column that long. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink this. I'm then going to go ahead and shrink this, and I'm going to go and I'm going to expand address, right? So remember, our report can be 8.5 by 11 with essentially a 1/2 inch on either side. So if we have a 1/2 inch on either side, that means that we can go up to, I believe, 7.5 inches. And then we'll center our table on the screen. So actually are two ways that we can do this. We can either actually just manually drag the table around, right, and kind of place it, or we can go over into this properties section. So we can get into the tables properties by having it selected, and then going over here to position, expanding location, and we can set our center. So if this is an 8.5 by 11 report and we want it perfectly in the center, we can essentially take 8.5 minus the width of our table. In this case, I believe our table is 7.5 inches. So that would be 8.5 minus 7.5 is 1 inch. So we want it a 1/2 inch. So we could go right here and we could go 0.5. And we can then set our top right here to 0, just so it's all the way at the top and it's perfectly center. So let's go ahead and let's run this. And let's take a look at what this looks like. So first I'm going to select a value and I'm going to go view. And there we go. Look at that. It is perfectly centered. So nice. So far, this is actually looking pretty good. Now, there's two things that I want to do. So the first is I want to change this value in here. So it's nicely formatted. So let me quickly do that. Then I want to highlight this row. So I'm going to do that by just highlighting it right here and then changing the format. So it is a nice light gray and bold right here. So this is already going to look a lot more professional. Then, since this is a call list, you often need a field to essentially put notes. So I'm going to go right here to row group or insert row, and I'm going to go inside group above, and I'm going to insert in a blank row. I'm then going to combine about half of these fields. Well, I'll combine right here. So I'll combine those. So I'll highlight just those and I'll go merge cells. Then I will put in here in bold and I will go phone or called right here. And then I will go and I will put in, switch to Wingdings font. So I'll go down here or Webdings and I will put in a little checkbox. Now that I have my little checkbox in, I'm then going to go date right here. And that way the salesperson can now put that they called and then the date. All right, the next piece that I want to do is I want to give them a spot to put some notes in. So this is where this gets a little tricky. So I'm actually probably going to select the cell and I'm going to split it. So once it's now there, I'm going to go back, I'm going to merge these. So I'll merge these cells. And then I will go right here and merge these. And I will go right here and merge those. And I will type in here notes. Then I'll select right here and I'll increase this row height just a little bit. So that way when we run this, we now have a called so they can check this and then a date right here. I'll go called 1 and then right here, I'll go right down here and I'll go call to. So that way, if they are calling multiple times, they can then have kind of this nice checkbox. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that this group is not split across pages. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to enable some advanced settings. So I'm going to go over here to this little arrow here, right here, click advanced mode. Then on these two ones, this row and this row, I'm going to set keep together to true and keep together to true right here. I'm then going to select my header row and I'm going to make sure that keep with group after is selected and then repeat on new page is equal to true. So that way it repeats every single time with the report header. So one other thing that I just did quickly here off camera was I set this to the size of this to exactly 7.5 inches. Okay. And then I set the location to 0 and 0 because I think I realized I did my math wrong. So let's run this and let's take a look at what we have. So our call list is now starting to look a lot better. So what do we have left to do? Well, we've got to move this timestamp over and then we have to add a header up here with the name and number of our dealership. So let's go ahead and let's do that. But first, one last thing that I just noticed is we need to add some borders around. So I've gone ahead and I've added quite a few borders around each one of these cells. So this called right here, all along the top and around. So that way we get a nice thicker black box around each customer. So I left this cell just to do with you guys, just so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select this cell right here. So I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to go down over here to border. And I'm going to set the left to 2-point. And then my border color, right? So the default's a light gray. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the left to a black. Then I'm just going to quickly move this execution time that we were looking over so it aligns down here. Okay, so all that's now left is to create our header. So I'm going to go over here to insert. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go header. I'm going to go add header. Okay, here is our header, and we're going to want to make this probably pretty small. In our header, we're going to add an image. Okay, and we're going to put this image at the top right here. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to import an image. So I believe I saved an image here on my desktop. Image, and it has to be a JPEG, but I believe this is a ping. That's it. Then I'm going to go here and I'm going to go open, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So remember when I said we were selling Ferraris? So there we are. There is our Ferrari logo. Okay, we're going to make sure that this is located in the 0 inches right here and 0 inches right here. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to insert in a text box. So we're going to go right here and we're going to go, we'll go potential customers. And we'll make sure that I spelled this right, and we'll go bold and we'll go black and we'll make this pretty big. And then over here, we'll go Ferrari of, I don't know, Portland, right? I don't think that's a place that exists. That's where I'm from. And we'll make this not bold, just so we get a little contrast in our font. We'll go make this Arial. Okay, so there we go. That's looking pretty good. Then because this is a list of customers and we want to make sure that it's extra safe, let's go ahead and let's put in the user ID of the person that's running it. So we'll go here and we'll just make sure that this is here, just so we know, like, hey, this is Bob's report, right? So if it ever got leaked, we'd be like, okay, well, there's the user ID of the person who leaked all of our customers. So now that we can have this, let's go ahead and let's click run and let's take a look at what this looks like. And here we are. Here is our report. So as you can see, it's generating up here, but it's a nice clean report. So all that is left to do is for us to go ahead and save this. And we'll save this as Paginated Report. Okay, and we'll go ahead and save this right here, and then we'll go and we will publish it. So we'll go back into design and we will go publish, and we will save this in the developer workspace that I have, which is where the data set is. So we'll rename this potential customers and hit publish. And this will publish on up to the Power BI service, just like a regular report. Then, just like that, here we are. Here we have our paginated report in Power BI. So I can go ahead and I can select a salesperson and I can click view report, and it'll go ahead and it'll generate a paginated report. I can then go into view, print layout, and then go back over here to home. And here we are. We can see a very printable paginated report for Power BI. So you can now go ahead and you could hit subscribe to report if you wanted this emailed to yourself every single day. Or you could essentially go right here to export and go to export PDF and print it. And just like that, it's evening time. I've gone for a run, I've had dinner, and now I'm finishing this video. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please consider subscribing and giving it a thumbs up. All of the original semantic model and then this RDL, so the paginated report file, will be linked in my GitHub down in the video description. And if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a good evening.